Okay, so this session we're calling in MathSoc 101. We're introducing you to the Mathematics Society, what we do, and everything about us. And we will be having another one of these sessions at 7 p.m. today. So if any of your friends have missed this, or you know anyone who is interested in this but could not attend this session, do let them know. And so moving forward, I think the first thing we want to address is what is MathSoc. So, does anyone have any idea what MathSoc is, what we've done? Like, have you guys checked out the website or anything by any chance? Yeah, Jessica.
So you're like a math society that's run by, I think it was undergraduates, and you host like all the clubs and events like Pi Day and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. So that so we're the student government essentially for the undergraduate math student body for all you Waterloo students, for like the math students at Waterloo, and so when we use the word student government, that means our one of our main tasks is advocacy. A lot of what we do is we advocate for math students. This could be so in recent years, in recent terms, we have looked at we've asked the university to not use invasive proctoring systems for online exams. Uh, we we got the credit. No, so when COVID first hit, an example of that is when COVID first hit, and a lot of our courses suddenly went from in person to online. MathSoc advocated for the math faculty to go from a percentage system to allow math students to have the option to change their grades to a CR NCR, which means that students were allowed to just show on their transcript whether they passed the course or not, which uh, so that their averages didn't get affected because of COVID. So advocacy is definitely one of our main tasks. Other than that, is we provide sales. Like we have a lot of novelties. We have MathSoc T-shirts, MathSoc the MathSoc ties. We have the faculty approved calculator. I think uh, that's like something almost every math student at your Waterloo keeps, which is like one of those MathSoc calculators. So that's there. Other than that, we provide a lot of services. We rent out a lot of board games to many clubs in the university. This, of course, we haven't been doing a lot of this right now since everything's online, but we're waiting we're waiting to restart that once the move back to campus is complete. We have a textbook library for all math courses. We have an online exam bank. We also host events all year long. So there's board game night, which happens every week. We have one Pi Day each term. There's March 14th, which is a Pi Day. There's 22nd July 22/7, which is what we call Pi Approximation Day. And we also have a Pi Day in September. Forgive me, I'm forgetting the exact date, but that's which is it's the 314th day of the year, which is our Pi Day in the fall term. We have resume critiques, so we have academic events as well, along with social events, which so that students who are in co-op can get their resumes shown to upper year students who can help them improve it. We have a range of events. We have a networking event coming up with the UW Economic Society this week, where students will have the opportunity to meet other students from who are like in the economic society, which is great because a lot of math students and economic students have a lot of common interests. And this event is especially very relevant right now because given that everything has been online because of COVID, a lot of students haven't been able to uh, make a lot of friends and talk about that. Also, I realized I can't see any messages while I am sharing my screen, I think. So uh, so if anyone does send any messages, just raise your hand first so I can quickly check the chat as well. Uh, so that's a little about the events we do. Now moving forward, I want to talk about the different roles students have in the organization, which help in the smooth running of our organization, and these are different roles in which you can get involved. So to start off, we have our executive body. Uh, we have two elected executives, which is the president and the VP academic. Uh, these uh, these executives are elected every term, and we have three appointed executives, which are the VP Finance, Internal, and Operations. I'm the VP Internal this term, and they're appointed by our board of directors every term. So that's great. The only requirement to be an executive is to be a member of the Mathematics Society, which is to be an undergraduate math student, and to have finished two academic terms. So once your first year is over, you can apply for or run for any of the executive positions. So let's look at what each of the executives do. Feel free to uh, ask any questions if you have. So first is our president. So our president uh, presents society at all official functions. So they represent the society to the faculty, to WUSA, which is the undergraduate student government for all Waterloo students. Uh, they uh, they work with other organizations on behalf of the society. Again, they're working with faculty, with WUSA, uh, uh, with other bodies as well. The university, because WUSA and the university are two separate bodies. Uh, uh, then Again, then we're not provided by an otherwise decision. They make appointments of members to external bodies. So if any student body requires a math student to 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 represent something there, like for example, we had the international or not just math students. Sometimes it could be other bodies where you need representatives. So for example, we had a mental health committee in a university mental health committee recently, which needed an international student representative. And the then president of our society recommended a few international students from the society to the committee, one of whom got appointed, which is to say that we, as the president, uh, does most of the president's job is representing the society and making sure that like most of it is advocacy and representing the society and making sure that the society runs smoothly. They also attend meeting of the WUSA Committee of Presidents, which is again representing the society to WUSA. Um, Other than that, the president also takes on all the roles if any position is vacant at any time. So when the vice presidential, if any vice presidential role is vacant at the beginning of the term, the president will make sure that those roles are filled, but at the same time also make sure that the work those roles are responsible for that is being done. If our board of directors does not have a chair, the president takes over that role, and as well as the role of the speaker of the council if that isn't there. So it's a pretty really taxing job, and it's so and uh, the president is helped by the vice presidents, which so we'll go on to talk about the other roles. So our VP academic, again, an elected position. Again, a lot of what the VP academic does is advocacy. So where they represent the society to the faculty, to the university, to the Federation of Students, which is WUSA. They make sure members have up-to-date academic information, which is like university policies, be it policies regarding academic honesty or policies regarding how courses can be run, so that if a student feels that a course isn't being run appropriately, they can bring that to the VP academic, who can bring that up to the faculty. They make sure they're the MathSoc representative to the Senate, where decisions regarding programs are made. So it could be name changes in program, what courses are offered, what courses require which prereqs. All of these, the Senate makes these decisions, and the Senate Undergraduate Council, I believe, and the VP Academic sits on this council as MathSoc's representative. And also the academic events I was talking about earlier, like the resume critique, those are also organized by the VP Academic. Moving forward to the appointed roles, we have our VP Finance. So the VP Finance prepares the budget, which involves preparing the budget of all the executives of all the clubs of the society. Also seeing how much money we have and how much money we expect to spend during the term. So they handle all the finances of the society. They present the financial reports to the termly general meeting. The general meetings are meetings of all undergraduate math students. So moving forward, the VP internal, this is my job. So the VP internal serves as the final approver of all society events. That means the VP internal is responsible for making sure that all society events have all the all the logistics are done, the appropriate documentation is there. What events are the VP internal organizes many of these events. Other than that, there's also a much more abstract part of the role, where we'll see some of these points. So one says encourage members to become more involved and ensure that the spirit of math does not leave the society. So this event is an example of one of these things where I want to talk to future members so that they can know where the opportunities exist to get involved in the society. Oversee all volunteers of the society. This means so all the executives are helped by volunteers. We'll be talking about the volunteers later. And it is the VP internal's job to make sure that all the volunteers, that there is a volunteer appreciation and all the volunteers are appreciated for their efforts. And then oversee all the internal organization. So that would be a lot of our clubs. So we have, so if you've been attending any of the other sessions, a lot of our clubs have been having sessions, and the VP internal makes sure that VP internal helps them out with all their needs and make sure that they know the policy. Then again, meet with every club and so executive at least once each term. This again, to help them make sure they know the policies, they know what needs to be done. And that's mostly what my job is as the VP internal. Moving forward to another vice president, the VP operations. So they oversee all the services operated by the society. This is the exam bank, the textbook library, the board games, and everything there. They oversee the society office. So the society office is currently closed again because of COVID. But when it's open, the VP operations is responsible to ensure that there's candy there for all students who want to come there. Uh, and students might want printouts, which they get from the office. That's working. Math students are allowed to rent out lockers for the term. The VP operations make sure that that's available. Then they allocate and manage the use of any space allocated to the society. So we have a room in one of the math buildings called the MC Comfy, which is a nice lounge. So if any club or society or anyone wants to host an event there, the VP operation is responsible for that, as well as the VP operations maintains the society's website. So that was about our executives, but that's not the only way to get involved. And as I mentioned, you can get involved as an executive after your first year. So we move forward to council. So our councils. Have any of you have any of you been in a student council at school or have any experience with the student advocacy? No worries. So our council essentially is our main advocacy body for society. It's uh, it's the it's where we make sure that each program's needs are met. They can bring up uh, things which they think are important. The proctoring issue, which I talked about earlier, it started off as a council motion where one of our councilors brought it up. And afterwards, and that's how MathSoc decided that we will be advocating that to the faculty. So the council is where most of our advocacy decisions are made. Uh, while these are the voting members of the council, which are the executives, which whom we just talked about, as well as 30 elected representatives from these various constituencies, and these keep changing. Like the number of representatives per constituency keeps changing depending on how many people are there. But and except the at-large constituency, which is a new thing that we've introduced, because sometimes we have some seats remaining after the general election, and sometimes even after the by-election. So to ensure that more people have an opportunity to help advocate for students, we started this new thing this term itself, that any seats which are not filled in the general election, we take them from like we take all except one from each constituency and change them to an at-large seat. So this allows more students to run, and this allows us to have a fuller council. So as you can see, that council has a first year representative. Has sorry, not say that's my council has a first year constituency which has which has different number of representatives every year. I think there are about five. There've been about 5 to 6 for the last couple of years. So in that, so you can assume somewhere in that range. So this is a great place to get involved in your first term when, unlike the other representatives who are elected each term, the first year representatives are elected till their first year ends. And or in case that their someone's first year ends up taking uh, longer than 1 year, then for 1 year, whichever is shorter, but mostly it's just going to be however long your first year is. And as part of like first year counselors aren't just part of council, they're also part of the committee of first year affairs, where help organize events for first years, organize, help bring first years concerns to the table so that they can be heard, and that's great because this is a committee which is mostly combined of the first year representatives, but it also has a few upper year students who can help out with these issues and can help out with these events. Uh, so also the council has a speaker. So the speaker is again appointed each term, but the speaker does not necessarily have to be a councillor. Um, the speaker serves as the presiding officer of the council and interprets all our governing documents. We have bylaws, the policies, etc. Make sure that that all meetings are publicized, because even though these members were the elected members of council, council meetings are open to all students. All students can come and attend council, and if given the and they're given the opportunity to speak on issues as well. Uh, they make sure that all council members know about the meetings, are given appropriate notice, and they're responsible for making sure that council runs every term. Since again the speaker can be a taxing job, council may appoint a deputy speaker to help the speaker. Okay, moving forward, now we'll discuss the duties and the powers of council. So, the executives are supposed to give reports to council, so that the council was like a body of elected representatives, knows what the executives are doing, whether they're doing their job, and can therefore evaluate the executives later. The budget, which I talked about, which the VPF brings, that's prepared by a budget meeting of the council, which so the entire budget needs to be approved by council, except some parts of the budget which we've restricted for the board of directors. Any society, club, or service needs to, whether it's created or disbanded, that's a council decision. Any university bodies, if they need representatives, they those are appointed by council. We form committees to look at certain things. It could be we've had committees to see how we want to use our membership fee, how we want to we have committees to make sure that all our bylaws are updated. So for different tasks, that's another thing council does. And other than that, council can make recommendations to board of directors or anything that the board of directors are supposed to talk about. And with that, we can now come to the board of directors. So as I mentioned earlier, that the council is a more the council changes every term. We have council elections every term. So the board of directors is the most steady body which we have, which looks at the more legal those kind of things for the council, more logistical for the society. It's the more logistical part of the society. So again, all the executives are members of the board of directors. One counselor is a member of the board of directors each term, so that's a student who changes every term. Other than that, we have staggered elections for the board of directors with so we have 6 at-large representatives, and 2 are elected each term for 1 year each. And this way the board of directors is while it's also an evolving body like the council, it's ever changing. It has some level of stability as well, so the board knows what has been happening. And we also have community representatives appointed for 2 years, and the community representatives are representatives who are not not necessarily undergraduate math students. They could be alumni, professors, other people affiliated with the society in any way, so that they can help out in the running of the society. Because it's good to have opinions there. We have the chair of the board, who's appointed by board. Unlike the speaker of the council, the chair is not appointed for a single term and can be appointed for multiple consecutive terms as well. While the chair does not need to be a director at when they're chairing, they definitely need to have had some experience being a director. So they either need to be so if they're not a director when they're appointed chair, then they need to have had some past experience as director. Other than that, their role is similar to that of the speaker of the council, where they're responsible for making sure all board meetings, all directors know about board meetings, all agenda items are sent to directors in advance. Directors have appropriate notice. So, so it's way similar to council in that term. But moving forward to the duties and powers of board, as I was mentioning, board looks at a lot more logistical issues. So it could be the reviewing of finances, which is we have an annual audit, approving, as I mentioned, there's a certain portion of the budget which the board of directors approve, that's there. The evaluation of executives and the appointment of executives. I told you like 3 of the executives are appointed. The board appoints them. Then we have, I mentioned that we have a general meeting. The board decides when the general meeting would be happening each term. Staff structure and human resources of the organization, which is how different volunteers and different members of the society work, what work needs to be done. That is brought to them. Whenever we and some clubs at school are not which aren't MathSoc clubs, they may be affiliated with MathSoc, which means that they won't necessarily follow all MathSoc policies. So when we have affiliates, all our memorandums of understanding are approved by board, and they determine the signing authorities of the society. That is to say that they decide who will be signing forms or MOUs or different things on behalf of the society at different time. Personally, I have to say the board is one of my favorite parts of the society. Most of my time in the society has been as a director, and I would really encourage and personally I would really encourage people to apply to be a director. Moving forward, our volunteers are some of the most important people in society. Our society could not function without volunteers. And so as I mentioned before, that executives can appoint volunteers to help them out with various tasks. So I mentioned some of the roles. There's a communications director or the website developer. So the website, so we have the novelties directors who help design new novelties. The finance director who helps the VPF with their tasks. We have the event coordinators who help think of different events and plan out different events. We have our marketing directors who make sure all our marketing material is there, who design our marketing material. We have our social media managers. When we're in person, we have a textbook library director. We have office volunteers. So we have a huge range of students who are not involved with the other bodies, who may not be necessarily be involved with the other bodies of the organization, but the organization cannot run without the volunteers. These are some of the most important people we have at the council, and this is again a great way to get involved. So as I mentioned, that volunteer roles, that executives can appoint volunteer roles, which means that there's some level of lack of stability in what roles are available. Now, of course, you can expect some roles to be available constantly, like website developer. As long as we have a website, we will need a website developer or novelties director. So as long as we have novelties and as long as we're selling novelties, we will need those jobs. But others may not be there, like social media manager, or if the VP internal feels that they can take on the task of social media, they may not necessarily require a volunteer for that. Same with some of the other directors, like the game science director, for example. So, this is, but at the same, so this one is a little. So to get involved with these, you cannot be sure that you will necessarily find the role you want. But every term, MathSoc does open up the volunteer form for people to fill out the form for whatever volunteer opportunities they are interested in, and executives do appoint these volunteers. So and if any of these interest you, or keep a lookout on our social media next time when you join. If any of the volunteer opportunities you see there, if they excite you, I would highly encourage you guys to apply to get involved. So this is an event we're having this term, the MathSoc virtual meet and greet. As of this term, this will be the only event which I believe will be open to incoming students as well as current students. And here you'll have the opportunity to meet with various executives, counselors, directors. So I would encourage you guys to keep an eye out for the registration link on our social media. I'll be sharing our social media on when we reach the end of this presentation. If you would like an email reminder, then please sign up at tinyurl.com/msmeetgreet. I'll just send that in the chat as well so that you guys can copy it from there. So that's there. Fill that up with your name and email ID, and I will personally make sure that you receive an email reminder when our registration link is open. So that's all from my side. Do you guys have any questions? Any thoughts? Anything you want to say? Feel free to type it in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever's comfortable. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, so how much of a time commitment would it be to be, say, just like a volunteer for now?
So volunteers require lesser commitment. Volunteers, to a large extent, you do not necessarily have to commit a lot of time. Of course, it depends on the role. It depends on the executive you're working with. As I mentioned, that the volunteer roles are the least stable roles, in the sense that they depend a lot about who you're working with. But in any of the cases, it would never be a very taxing opportunity. For example, if you're an event coordinator, like I was working with a few event coordinators this term, and most of the things the event coordinators had to do was just we had, I think, one or two meetings where we discussed, one or two meetings which lasted about an hour each, where we discussed what possible events we can have, and then each event coordinator has been involved in organizing one event, which means they did not have to really spend a lot of time throughout the term, just some time to make sure that all the logistics is done, and I was helping them out with that as well. So it wasn't even a continuous task. Something like website developer, I think, would be a little more continuous in that the website is constantly changed, and we are still working on some of the website pages. So I think that's a little more continuous. Of course, I did not personally work on the websites. I'm not entirely sure about this. Other than that, office volunteers, like when our office opens, they're who are responsible for making sure that anyone who comes to the office, if they need a printout or if they just want to grab some candy, all of that is there. So that again would depend on how much the VPO and they decide. So being a volunteer, you do have a lot of control over how much time you want to spend, and it's not very time consuming. Or for that matter, if it's about time commitment, even council or board of directors aren't very time consuming jobs, and that you have board, you have like 4 meetings a term. Council, you have, I believe, a few more, maybe around 5 or 6. And while those meetings can last long, 2 to 3 hours, other than that, you only take on as much work as you require, which could be any committees you join. Again, any committee you join, you can see if you want to, how much time commitment that would require, and if you can commit that amount of time. The executive roles, however, would definitely require a lot more time commitment, where you're constantly working throughout the week because a lot of those activities are going on throughout the week, like marketing's going on every day. Our society is running every day, so the president is constantly doing some work. Website development, so the VPO is there. So as I mentioned, so other than the executive roles, however, we understand that everyone is a student. Even with the executive roles, actually, we do understand that everyone is a student, but so they can only submit, they can only commit like a certain amount of time. We do expect a little more from the executives, but even if that gets too tiring and that gets too hazardous to their academic work, the board and council does look into it. One of the things the board is doing right now is we're looking at changing the VP internal role to VP internal and a VP communications role in the future. So that because the VP internal is responsible for a lot of tasks, so we're working on reducing that workload right now. The president is also a overworked position, so we're looking at what we can do for that. So definitely, like even with the executive roles where you will be expected, where a higher time commitment will be expected, the board and the rest of the organization does make sure to keep in mind that since everyone is a student, you can only commit a certain amount of time. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thoroughly. Thank you.
Great. Does anyone have any more questions? So, seeing that there's nothing, I think we can end now. So thank you so much for coming. Please do follow our social media so that you can stay up to date on future events, on opportunities to get involved, information about our clubs. everything. That's where that's what we do on social media. I think I got a miss. Oh, will there be in-person opportunities in winter 2022? Oh, that's an excellent question. So we can't say anything for certain right now because it does depend on how COVID goes. But the university is opening up a lot more in fall 2021. So we do expect the winter 2022 would be a lot more in person. Of course, with the rate vaccinations are going at, I have like I'm very optimistic about winter. Um, but I can't say anything for sure right now. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Um, I think math orientation will be uploading the recording of all sessions to their YouTube channel. Uh, I'm not entirely sure about this. The orientation team is uh, the orientation team knows this, but I will confirm this, and I think they will make sure all first years get to know this information. So rest assured, like wherever it'll be uploaded, that will be advertised well so that everyone knows. I will also make sure that it's on that we make sure that the location of those recordings is also shared on our Instagram and Facebook so that people can know from there. So uh, while I'm not certain where it will be, rest assured like it will be marketed well enough that everyone like should be able to find. Um, so so that's great. If you have any more questions, let me know. If you can't think of any questions right now, that's all right as well. You can always come to the evening session and ask me any more questions there, or you can email us at info@mathsoc.uwaterloo.ca and make sure that and we'll make sure that your questions are answered. I'm typing that email in the chat as well so that you guys can copy that. And I think so does anyone have any final questions? Okay, so seeing none. Oh, Jessica.
I just wanted to ask, like, what do you think is the most rewarding or enjoyable part of being on the Math Society Club? Or like any events that you think are just like something to look forward to?
Okay, so events to look forward to. I'm really looking forward to in-person movie nights because we have I believe we have a popcorn machine. I don't know if it's still there, but so that's fun. It's like a nice social event because movie nights online are just a little. I mean, everyone has Netflix, so it's a lot like watching movies separately. So I'm really looking forward to that. And also MathSoc has a karaoke machine, so I'm definitely looking forward to any event with karaoke in it because uh, I need some place to sing out Taylor Swift for everyone. But other than that, Pi Day is always a great opportunity. You get to when we're offline, we're organizing raffles and other opportunities to give away stuff on Pi Day. When we're in person, you get the opportunity to actually throw pie on your executives and on professors and stuff. So that's fun. And about being in the society, as I mentioned earlier, my favorite part about being in the society is being part of the board of directors because I really enjoy looking at the logistical part of the body. I also really enjoy organizing events. And while we're like a little restricted right now with events being online, I just think that's like a little that's a little challenging, I guess, but it's really fun as well. So I think those two would be my favorite part. But again, it depends a lot about what you're interested in. If you like finances, the VP finance role would be great for you. If you're really passionate about student advocacy, then the counselors or the VPA or president role would be great for you. If you, like me, like the logistical part of the looking at our appointing our different roles and looking at our legal issues and stuff, then then being a member of the board of director would be a great opportunity for you. But personally, I would say being a member of the board of directors is my favorite part. That's great. Any more questions?